All right, so back with another Tailwind UI stream here, and today I am going to be building some contact sections that Steve designed. So I built out some of the simpler ones already, but I want to work on this kind of cool one with the big kind of full screen image deal, and then also this one with sort of like the split two color background kind of thing. So let's get started, I guess. So I'm going to start with this one, I think. Um, and the first step is going to be to set up a new component file here. So I'm going to duplicate just this existing one that I have here in contact sections. I'll just call this like split with image, maybe. So split with image. And I should be able to see that on this page now. Oh, called a couple things split with image apparently. Okay, so here I just took, I duplicated one of the ones I've already built, so we can just start by basically wiping out all this content. So let's just see what we got. All right, so yeah, we'll do a white background. There's going to be probably a div that has an image in it. Let's see if we can find that image on Unsplash. Office. Oh, that was easy. All right. So we'll just stick that in there. We might want to do some sizing and stuff. It looks like Steve kind of dynamically changes the height and stuff. Looks like he's using a fixed height maybe. 224. Yeah, that's a Tailwind utility, so that's convenient. And then after that, it's kind of just split, so that'll be kind of easy. All right, cool. So we got that section. I wish Figma would go a little bit smaller. It doesn't want to go any smaller than this, which means I have to like, it has to like cover up part of VS Code when I tab back and forth between them. But what can you do? So I have another section here that's going to have like an H2 that's like, let's work together. And then there's like a P tag. We'll just copy this exact content so it makes it easy for us to compare things. And then underneath that, we're going to have like a form. So I guess we'll just use a form tag for that. We'll just have this do nothing. And inside the form, we're going to have some inputs and stuff. So cool thing about this is we can actually copy some of these from Tailwind UI. We're reaching a point with Tailwind UI finally where I can actually use Tailwind UI to build Tailwind UI. So if we go to the inputs section, these are all just kind of simple ones. So we'll just grab this. We'll stick that in there and we should have, yeah, we got like one there. And if we look at the Figma thing, we've got another one, 2, 3 that are the same. Then we've got one that has like the text up in the top right. So I think we have that in here. I'll just grab that one. And then we have a text area with stuff on the top right. I think we'll just copy this and make it a text area. We'll go through all these, change the IDs and all that stuff in a minute. But I think I'll maybe make this a text area for now. So this will be form text area. And this will have to switch to text area. But we'll update the content and stuff in a second. Then we have a section that's kind of like a radio button list. That one I don't think we have as like a thing to copy, but we should do that at some point. So this is not going to be with, actually, you know what? I might have something close to that in form layouts. If we look through these, like this is pretty close. I wonder if there's another one that's even closer. Yeah, maybe I can take this. Let's just look at the code for this and grab it from the push notifications section. So it's basically this whole field set. Let's grab the field set and use that. I don't think we need this p tag because if I remember right, it's just this label. And we'll want this legend to have the same styling as these other labels, but we'll kind of figure that out when we get there. And then we have finally another one that's just like a regular sort of vanilla input. So we'll stick that down after the field set. And then we have a div with a button in it. And I think we can probably just grab this submit button. I'm 99% sure this button's going to be like the same. And we'll figure out the positioning and all that stuff in a moment. All right, so looking back here, that's all the elements. So maybe what we'll do is we'll go through and just clean up some of this content. So this first one is going to be first name. This is going to have to be first name. Then we have last name, last name. We can get rid of these placeholders, I think. Steve's not using placeholders for anything. So we'll just get rid of all of them. Then we have company. Phone. Optional. And now this is going to say, how can we help you? Max 500 characters. And this will be, what would be a good name for this form field, I wonder? Bob, you can upvote components on our Trello roadmap. So if you just go to tailwindui.com/roadmap, it'll redirect you there. We'll just call this like, how can we help or something. And then this stuff is going to be expected budget and budget under, oh wait, this is going to be budget type radio. Or no, this sucks that we need IDs for everything. This is going to be budget under 25K. So that means this is for budget under 25K. This is going to be budget 50K, 100K. I hate IDs so much. I guess we'll make this, Steve's kind of got these in a weird order. 25 to 50. Then we'll do 50 to 100. And then we'll do over 100K. I guess we need one more. Okay. Fill out this stuff. So less than 25. Okay. I guess we'll do capital K's since that's what Steve has decided for us here. 50K to 100K. Shit. Screwed that one up. I'm looking at his design, which has things in like the weird order. Ugh. 50 to 100, then 100 plus. And oh wow, there's like, that's a bummer. There's a bit of a bug, not a bug, but a mistake in the code that I just copied. We've got form input in the name attribute, which doesn't really make sense. So this should just be budget. And I guess like we need values for them. So we'll just say under 25K. This is like this is some dark stuff. Like I could just like, I'm getting like PTSD thinking about like reading these options on the server and mapping them to like your you know, your server side code that's actually looking for these values, basically taking like real values and converting them into these like gross strings. All right, let's just see like how things are even looking so far. All right, so we've got some stuff going on here. I think we're gonna want to change this label to use the same styles as that, and then we'll check the spacing that Steve's actually done. We'll check like the actual styles that he used for these, but other than that, it's probably not far off. And then we've got, how did you hear about us? One thing that's weird about this is it doesn't have a an email field. So I think I'm going to change that. We'll just have like, maybe we'll do like your name here, then like email. Make this a type of email. Okay, so that's like a start. So let's open the DevTools. Oh, open the DevTools in the wrong Chrome window. Over here. And we'll set this to like iPhone-ish size so we can kind of just design there first. And we could probably fit this over here at this point. And I guess we'll get this going. So looking at this, let's start with the image. The image is going to be height 56, because that's what 224 is. Width full, object cover. I think that should get us pretty close. And then this section, this white section, it looks like 48, 64. So 48 is 12 and 16. Bring out PT12, PB16 to get this padding in. And then we'll do the heading here. So this is class equals, what is 30? I think that's 20 is XL, 24 is 2XL, so 3XL. Text 3XL, letting 10, because Steve's got a line height of 40 pixels there. Font extra bold, and then tracking tight probably, because he's got a little bit of tracking on there. And what do we got for horizontal space here? It looks like 16, so we'll just go PX4. And then this one is 18. So that's text LG, letting 7, text gray 500. And the gap here is 15 pixels, so that's probably a little bit of a slight error in Steve's part. And this is 35. Killing me, sugar. Here he's got 48. I guess I'll do 36, but I'll have to just clarify with him to see what he actually wants here. Because 36 is a value we don't use that often. All right. So now all these are spaced out by 24. So what I'm going to do for this is I'm going to, since we know this kind of goes to like a grid layout eventually anyways, I'm going to make this form display grid. I'm going to do grid calls 1, so it's a single column grid. And I'm going to say row gap 6 to put a gap of 24 pixels between each row. So that should just like do our spacing for us kind of automatically. So that part's done. And then for this text, this is 14 text gray 700. What do we have here? So I think we can basically just get rid of this medium font weight. Other than that, it looks like it's all right. Maybe the spacing is going to be slightly different. 16. No, the spacing's good. So here's another case where I think I'm going to switch this to using grid. You can see these are stacked, but over here they become like a grid. So let's just make them a grid from the get-go. Grid calls 1, row gap 4, since that's like the MT that we're using here. And now you'll see things are kind of probably a little bit weird, like it's a little bit too much margin, but if we get rid of this MT stuff, now we still have the right spacing, and now we can control it all from one place, just with like editing the row gap, which is nice. All right. Let's see what's next. Probably the space above this button. That's actually probably fine because the button is in the field set, I think, or in the group, right? Okay, so that's cool. So then it's just a matter of putting the button on the right, which that's easy. We'll just say text right. And yeah, there's the mobile one. Done. Cool. So let's pull this down and we'll go up to, I like to check 639 and just make sure that it's not crazy. So see that it's reasonable, and it looks reasonable to me. And usually I can tell from Steve's designs what he actually wants to do. So this is 640. And he's got this constrained to 526. Okay, so we can probably put a max width on this container, because like this is kind of wide right here. So sometimes I have to just make like decisions about the design that are hard to anticipate until you actually build it. So I'm going to add another container here. We'll just do like max width. We'll start with 32 because that's basically what Steve wanted. All right. Let's go up to like here maybe. And we'll do an MX auto on this so it stays centered. So now you can see like this is centered. It's a little bit more reasonable. I think we could make a case for making this like MD even. So it's like when it's using the mobile sizes, it's even a little bit narrower. And then right at 640, we'll change it. So here Steve jumps to 64 pixels of vertical padding. So we'll say SMPT16. Let's check the bottom. That still stays the same. We always do like a design review phase before I actually put these things into production, so I can talk to him about any things that seem like maybe not deliberate, because he has like a 48 pixel above and 64 pixels below, but then he increases this to 64 but doesn't change anything about that one, and maybe that's totally deliberate, but maybe it's not. And to me it's like, oh, it feels like it should maybe change relatively. He's probably got a good reason for not doing that if it's deliberate, but it's one of those things that I always try to remember to ask. So it looks like the font size doesn't even change here. 30 and 40. Oh no, 36 and 40. So that looks like a mistake in the line height, because if we look for text 4XL, oh, we haven't used text 4XL yet. Oh yeah, we do. Letting 10. So that means that probably text 3XL, we normally use letting 9. Okay, so that's like where the inconsistency is. So he had a line height of 40 pixels on here, but for 30 pixel font, we usually use a 36 pixel line height. So that's probably fine for this. Now here, we're going to want to do some changes though. So this looks like it stays the same, so that's good. This would want to do that line height, so SM letting 10. The only other thing I'd want to check is his gaps. That drops down to 12. So we'll say SM MT3. And then we also went wider on this container. So you can see this is 526, which again, like that's close to 32 rem. So we'll say SM max width LG. All right, so that's going to be closer to his design. And then he did kind of like a grid thing here. Now he has email here, but he didn't have it here. So maybe that's the right solution here. I got rid of first name, last name. Because I didn't see an email, but it turns out that was just something that was omitted from like the one screen size, which is definitely just a small mistake. Okay. All right, so now we can do this grid thing. So I think what we'll do is we'll just make this like a 2-column grid at this size. So you'll get kind of this effect, which is kind of ugly, right? But we'll just make everything be a 2-column except the first one. So we'll say SM call span 2. We'll just copy that and use that for a couple of these other ones too. Because I think literally everything is meant to be call span 2. Oh, this shouldn't have this MT6 on it. And all right, so that's looking better. Oh, we should set a height on this text area. Maybe we'll do like 3 rows. How many rows does Steve do? Oh, he does more. Let's do like 4. It looks like there's a placeholder on this. Let's get rid of that. Yeah, okay. And now up here, this gap is obviously no good. So let's see what Steve did, 32. So to accomplish that, we just need to add a call gap of 6. Am I 8? All right. Can't do math. All right, let's see what that gives us. Keep refreshing the wrong things. It sucks having like multiple Chrome windows open. All right, so I mean that's probably done in a lot of ways. Looks like we're missing some transitions on this stuff. That's annoying. So that's another Tailwind UI bug that I have to fix. Where I copied these from didn't include the transitions. Transition, ease, in, out. Okay, so that's better. Now, do these ones have it? Looks like these ones do have it. Yep. So it's just this last one that's missing it. Okay. All right. Moving right along. I divided 32 by 4 because that tells me the Tailwind utility number. In Tailwind, like a unit of 1 is equal to a quarter rem. So 32 pixels divided by 4 tells me like the Tailwind numbers, because divided by 16 is how many rems it is, so 2 rems. So I have to figure out, well, what Tailwind utility is 2 rems? So 2 divided by whatever, you know what I mean, gives me the Tailwind stuff divided by a quarter, I think, right? Divided by 0.25. So it's the same as just dividing by 4. All right, so there's that. Let's check out this one. Okay, so this is where things are going to get interesting, where we have to switch to this layout, and this happens at 1024. So other things I like to check here is 767 is sort of like the next, right before the next breakpoint. So I like to check and make sure that we're still happy with how it looks there. The constraint really helps. And then we have like 1023. So we look at this and decide, okay, is this still fine? You can make an argument like that the image maybe should be bigger, but I think I'll probably just bring that up with Steve. But at 1024, we're going to kind of reimagine this whole layout now. So let's start by thinking through how this is even going to work, because it's not as simple as it looks, especially when you look over here. What you have here is a 50-50 split, but this stuff isn't like centered in this half. The way this is like kind of done conceptually is this is on a centered grid. So you can imagine there's a grid right here, right? And it's 50% of that grid. And I mean, it's not even really 50% of that grid. I'm not sure what Steve imagined for this specifically. Usually I would expect that this is this would be on this grid. All right, I'm going to build it the way that makes sense to me, and then we'll have to figure out exactly what Steve meant to do for this like padding. He has it as like 64, which is doable. I think I can probably make this still work. Yeah, I can make this work. That's fine. I understand what to do here. All right, so anyways, this is going to be interesting because the image and the content are on different grids. One's on a full width grid and one is on a centered grid. So let's go to, what size is this? This is 1440. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to think about how this should work. I think, let's say LG grid calls 2. And usually we do like, usually for this padding, like we kind of have like some internal rules about that, which is on small screens we go up to 6. On large screens we go to 8. So I don't think that's encoded in Steve's design because it just doesn't show up. But that is kind of how we do things. So I'm just going to bake that assumption in. I'm going to remove this max width. So that's going to go full width in theory. But it didn't. Is there another div in here? Oh, because it's automatically 1/2 because I did grid calls too. So that's okay. Now we're going to get this image over here. So this is where things get interesting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this, I'm going to wrap this in another div. And this is going to be a LG grid calls 2. We're also going to go LG absolute, LG inset 0. This is going to be, we'll just make it relative all the time. And then this is going to be LG call start 2. And this is going to be relative. And this will be LG H full. We might even want to do LG absolute, LG H full. Won't really change anything, but sometimes if the image is taller than the text, it could have caused weird issues. All right, so this is like kind of close, but we got to figure out like what to do with the padding. Computer can't really keep up with the resizing very well. Hopefully that's just because of all the streaming action going on and not because it's a weird performance issue with the layout. It's weird that there's like a white strip over here. I think that's just DevTools. All right. So here Steve has 24 on both sides of this. So maybe we should actually be like, let's just do it kind of the naive way to start, which is basically just making this match that, because I think Steve has 24 on the edge. He shouldn't. He should make that 32. So I'm going to make it 32. And then at 1280, basically at like really big sizes, we just have to make sure that there's like an overall constraint on this grid. So we should probably just keep that consistent everywhere. And usually we do that on this element. So that's going to be max with 7XL is like 1280. And we'll do MX Auto on that. So that kind of gets things where they should be. And now if we were to like zoom out on this and make it like really huge, it still seems to kind of just work. All right, so that I think is going to be the best way to do that. One thing I like to do is open things in Safari because Safari performance is good and everything else is bad. Oh, interesting. So we've got like a Safari, kind of a bug in Safari where the image isn't visible. So let's think about this. I'm surprised by that because this has no background or anything. Like if we stuck this over here, if I delete this, oh, the image is still not visible. Okay, no problem. Relative. I wonder why that would be. Why am I not even seeing anything here? So there's that. It's like this element is not showing up for some reason. Like it doesn't even get highlighted anywhere. So I guess let's delete all these classes for a second. Div. Why is this not showing up at all? Okay, so I mean it shows up on small screens. It's pretty confusing to me that this doesn't show up. I would think like this should be visible now because it should be directly above this one. The only thing I could think of is maybe like the absolute on the image is causing issues. Okay, so it's the absolute on the image. So let's see, if I get rid of the absolute on the image, okay, so that partially fixes it. But the problem is like, we got this element, but this child, it doesn't go the full height, which is bizarre. I guess it just goes the height of the image. Always weird when browser behaves a little bit differently. Could say inset 0. Do we need both? It's probably because this needs to have a H full, maybe? No? You would think that, okay, we got this div inside of it. Should we make this absolute? That seems weird. Oh, am I streaming on the wrong channel? That's funny. No problem. That's hilarious that I streamed on the wrong channel. It's a secret weightlifting stream. That's the problem with YouTube, having multiple channels that both have literally the same name. All good. Maybe I'll move the video over after, or I'll do another stream later on the proper one. I can't think why this wouldn't work. Like this takes up the right amount of space. It's got algae grid calls 2. This just isn't showing up at all, which I find really surprising. Like I would think that if I just say like hello in here and comment this out. Okay, so there's that, right? So now we've got this. Okay, so this is actually helpful because I can figure out how do I make this div be full height. It seems like it's some weird behavior where like absolute with a grid is just behaving in a surprising way. Like this has the only thing I can think to try is like see, this behavior is wrong. The Chrome behavior is right. So this element has a size with a height, but the grid doesn't take up the right amount of space. I mean, there's one way we can sort of cheat, which is to just not use a grid, but it kind of just feels like lame. So we can just say like inset y 0, LG width 1/2, LG right 0. All right, so that still didn't quite work. Width 50%. Oh, sorry. This should be... Oh, no, that should be right. Right 0. Oh, we need absolute on this. So absolute, absolute. Just everything absolute. Okay. And then this will probably work now. Yeah, so Safari gets messed up when you have an absolute position grid. Don't know. So I guess we could just cheat and do it this way with the width 1/2 thing, which I can't say I love, but I'll look into this in more detail another time. But that should work fine. It's in Chrome too. Yeah, so yeah, so I guess this works, but it is a little bit surprising that we couldn't do it with the grid and have that work in Safari. So yeah, so I think what I'm gonna do is, because I'm streaming on the wrong channel, now that we're done this first one, I think actually let's double check, make sure we didn't miss anything else. Did this font size change? No, doesn't look like any of the font sizes changed, any of the other sizes. So I think this one is done. Let's stop this stream, and I will start a new stream on the correct YouTube channel, so at least the video ends up there. And I will build out this other one, which is a little bit simpler, actually. Okay, so I'll be back in a few minutes on the right YouTube channel. Okay, see ya, folks.